Alright guys, Kremp here and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy turned the stream on late last night to address many of the concerns that OpTic fans understandably presently have with the way their team is currently performing. Is trusting the process going to be enough to turn this team around? Shotzzy though says that their scrims over the last week or so have actually been far more promising than over the preceding month. He describes their scrims as horrendous over the last few weeks, but in the last couple of days things have turned around, certainly against Thieves and FaZe behind the scenes in practice. Translating that into matches, however, still seems to be a struggle point, and let's not forget, against teams not called the Vegas Falcons, OpTic have lost their last 21 maps in a row. Is it okay to say, stick with the roster, give it time, trust the process? I'm sure that patience is running out for many. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Before we get there, just want to discuss Boston versus FaZe, because this was a very controversial series, honestly. Again, I feel bad for Boston in numerous ways, mainly because this weekend their two games were against Thieves and FaZe. Their first round of the minor was against Surge, so I feel like they've had a pretty hard go of it lately. They've not really had any series that you think, that should be a comfortable win, or at least puts themselves in a good position to do so. This weekend, they played FaZe and Thieves. They of course lost to Thieves the other day. This was a winnable series though, and I think for FaZe, it's interesting to see how their search and destroy has actually fallen off quite substantially. Now look, it is FaZe, and we know that in previous years, FaZe have been the 3-2 team in the online qualifiers, right? They wouldn't always win the qualifiers, yet they would turn up to LAN and always be very impressive. This year it looked like it was going to be a different story after their initial slump in the Major 1 qualifiers, but this stage they're 2-5, actually I guess now 3-5 in Search and Destroy, including a map loss on every single map in the map pool. So it is a talking point for FaZe going into the Major, their Search and Destroy not looking as strong as it previously did, because effectively that's what won them the Major back in Madrid. FaZe then won the map 3, but this was a crazy game 4. This was Drazah. I mean, honestly, you don't see Drazah making too many mistakes, but this certainly was one here. So Boston get a nice break. Drazah goes on the pinch. He probably could have just cut straight through, just to the right. I mean, like, to his right here, he could have just gone in there. Shot number 2 in the back and Cammy, probably, and won the team the game. But he goes up top, and then he actually doesn't go for the pinch. He ramps back to mid, wastes a load of time, doesn't check for Purge. Purge kills him. Everyone goes down. Boston win the game. So, great hardpoint map, certainly from Boston. It goes to 5, and at the start of the game 5, Cammy was cooking. Okay, he was getting a lot of great timings, but he was starting 5-0 Cammy. He nearly had a streak. He had an RC car, nearly had a strike missile to bring down from the sky. And then the game servers crashed. And look, would FaZe have gone back to win the game anyway? They are very good at adaptation, certainly on red cards, sure. But still, like, a really difficult way, like, of all the things that haven't gone Boston's way lately, with the schedule and all this, for them then to go up 2-0, game 5 against FaZe, potentially Cammy's on the verge of getting a streak as well, and then the game servers crash for like 40 minutes. You know, it's not really the league's fault on this. Battle.net just went down. When they finally get back in, FaZe eventually come back and win the map. So, you know, it was a classic, unfortunately. And this was actually a really big series of Boston, if you think about it, because their CDL points are draining away quite quickly. They, 10 points here could have been pretty massive in the grand scheme of things. And it's also not very clear for Boston, especially after this series, how good they are. Do they need to make a change? Look, Snoopy made a great play to win them the game 4, but didn't have a very good series. In game 5, Snoopy was lost at sea. So I think it's tough because Snoopy's had such a great start to the year. And at the point where Boston are probably thinking, okay, if we need to make a change, what will it be? Actually, the other guys, apart from Purge, who's been a bit up and down still, but Cammy and Wake have turned up to some degree on the ARs. Snoopy's had a harder time. But, maybe series against FaZe and Thieves aren't really the ones to judge, but it's still a rough way to lose. I think it does say a little bit about FaZe this series because, Boston ran them close. They could easily have won the map 5, and FaZe do advance to 4-1, and realistically they shouldn't have many other competitions than, obviously Surge and then Thieves, and maybe a team like Cloud9 and of course Ravens as well in that conversation as well. So we'll see how FaZe got on, but they don't look, unbeatable, let's say, by any means, as it presently stands. Of course, we've got to talk OpTic though, because another devastating defeat yesterday. People, of course, were clowning him for some of the tweets that he made back in January. This was among them. I did think there was one interesting tweet, I thought. That was from Hex. So OpTic Update, of course, tweeted out the results of the series, final, OpTic 0, 3 to Ultra, and, there were, of course, plenty of replies to this. Hex actually retweeted this, right? And I don't know if he usually does this. I'm sure he probably usually does when they win, but I thought it was at least notable that he retweeted this one because, he's been putting the pressure on the team, and for very good reason. He said to Dashy's face the other day that it was the worst OpTic team that had ever happened. Okay, also potentially could be one of the best, and only the second ever OpTic iteration to win the World Championship, but still, it's very clear to Hex that there's a serious problem here. And I think BenJ, you made the point on the flank last night about OpTic fans, maybe some of them not even turning up to the Major 2 events, and, he kind of got clowned for that. But I think, I've seen some posts on, I think, the OpTic subreddit, kind of to this effect, saying that, do I really want to go to turn up and watch the ring ceremony on the Thursday, which is going to be, almost like a funeral, and then the Friday, they get bombed out of the tournament 0-3, and then they don't even play Saturday, Sunday? I'm sure that there will be OpTic fans that are like, well, I could sell my ticket and do something else on my weekends. And that's not a good spot for the fan base to be in general. Obviously, the CDL were clowning them as well. There was that whole segment. Maven certainly had some thoughts on that as well in the replies here. And, then some of the ESPN analysts, they give their take as well. Octane says, this entire OpTic team has zero clue of where a single gunfight is going to happen on the map. And when you watch them play, I think that's the concern. We're going to hear what Shotzzy has to say here in a second. And from Shotzzy's POV, they've made some progress. He feels like they're moving in the right direction, maybe in terms of their practice, but did we see any of that translate to the server? Did they look any better yesterday than they did 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, when they first had Pred back in the team? Not as far as I'm concerned. In some respects, they probably looked worse, let's be perfectly honest. So it's difficult to imagine that OpTic can turn it around from this, even as aBeZy says, there is no way this OpTic team should ever look this bad. I refuse to believe they lost all their skill and basic COD knowledge overnight. It's just such a confusing scenario. And CleanX says, GG to Falcons and OpTic won both series. Not sure what that was. It's like, even teams like Toronto who have not been, it's kind of difficult to say how good Toronto are this season, really. But they've been pretty mid. Sometimes they've had good results, sometimes they've looked really competitive, other times that's not been the case. They've lost some surprising series. But even CleanX is coming out and saying, I have no idea what they were doing on the other side of the server yesterday. And CleanX is like, Joe, I had 2 KD. Whenever someone's dropping a 2 KD on your head, it's never a good sign. So Shotzzy last night decided, play some mates, turn the stream on, and talk through a couple of things. Very interesting what the future is for this team and for Shotzzy individually. We know that he wants to win, fundamentally, and sure, he loves being part of OpTic, but right now this team ain't winning. I'm not going to say he's going to dip out after Major 2 or anything, but the long-term future of this OpTic Shotzzy partnership is coming under some threat, I would say, at the moment. Now, he does mention a few interesting things that have happened behind the scenes, talking mainly about their practice. Now, look, we've mentioned practice intermittently over the last couple of weeks because we've not really got to see OpTic's practice. We heard that rumour that they played Thieves and it was, 5-2, and, the rumour had it that it was probably Thieves that won that series 2-5 or 5-2, and it's not like OpTic Scrims have been good. In fact, the general talking point, Karma even said, Scrims have been up and down, which tends to mean more down than up, really, because most people, if they're splitting scrims, they'll usually say, yeah, they're going well, we're learning a lot. If you're saying they're up and down, probably means you're losing more than you're winning, and that still seems to be true. But Shotzzy made a few points on stream, one of which being about their current practice, and it's pretty, it's difficult to watch in a way, because what he said was, before this week, of course it's now concluded, but before last week, they were horrendous in scrims. Their scrims were awful, they were just losing all the time, looking at how they do in the matches, basically. The most recent week, they played better. They played FaZe, they played Thieves, and they lost 2-3 map count in the hard points on both occasions. Of course, notable to say, 2-3 in the hard points, but they also presumably played controls, and had they won any of the controls, Shotzzy may have mentioned it. So the actual scrim map set may have been 2-6 in both occasions, losing all the controls, which is you know, that still ain't good, right? Okay, great. You won a couple of hard points. And I know that Shotzzy says it's more about how you're playing rather than the results, which is true. You don't want to fall into the results-based thinking trap. But it obviously can't be good, right? And these are the teams that are meant to be, you know, you're meant to be fighting it out with for the World Championship this year to try and defend the title. And clearly, even now, they're nowhere near, although they may be better than they previously were.
A map? Yeah, you can't get a damn map. Fuck me, man. Do your scrims look better? Oh, no, scrims have looked better in the matches. Or than the matches, for sure. Our scrims are definitely way better. We just need to translate it. But, I mean, bro, listen, bro, this shit's a process, man. Obviously, you know, our situation is a bit extreme, but we need to see. I just need to see one victory. Then it's fucking wraps. I'm messing around. I mean, obviously, we need to get better. We all know that, chat. Don't get it twisted. I will say this: the practice has actually been going a lot better, and I know the matches say otherwise. But I will say, before the let's say before this week started, bro, I'll admit, holy fucking shit, the scrims were horrendous. The scrims were literally dog shit. But I genuinely, this week was our best week. I'm being dead ass. Why would I cap the cap? Like, what? There's no... Bro, we haven't even won a map. Chat, we haven't won a single fucking map. You think I'm going to sit here and cap? Believe it or not, I'm like not even trolling. Played FaZe, I think it was 2-3 map count and HPs. Played LA Thieves, I'm pretty sure it was 2-3 in HPs as well. Like, two, in my opinion, two of the best teams in respawns right now. You know, obviously the other teams are kind of... That's the thing though, like map counts shouldn't matter. They truly shouldn't, but like the ways that we played it, like let's just say we lost 5-0, but we like should have won. Like we could have won like every game. In my opinion, that's a good set.
So a few of the other things that Shotzzy said as well, saying that there's no out-of-game issues, and sure, like, does the team hate each other? No, I don't really think so. Is it more, let's just say, precarious as a situation that it's been before? Probably yes, I think that's inevitable. I mean, you know, I said it at the start of the video, and I'll say it again because I still can't quite believe that it's true. But they got 3-1s by Ravens back at the Major. They lost their final 3 maps of that series. Since then, they've been 3-0'd by FaZe, Rocker, Ravens. They went to the minor, beat Falcons, congrats. 3-0'd by Toronto, now 3-0'd by Miami, and then 3-0'd by Toronto again, which is 21 maps in a row, and the next series they play is Thieves. So, you know, you can't tell me that that's not going to have some effect on the team. Sure, in the game, probably issues as well, as we know. Out of game in terms of the team chemistry, them wanting to drop Kenny for playing bad, that doesn't really seem to be how it is, but you know, the last straw must be coming soon. Like, surely, like, if it keeps going this way, there will be a straw that breaks the camel's back on this one. He commented on Pred and the whole asking where they spawn clip, and as I said yesterday, I didn't really think that was a massively big deal, but, you know, Shotzzy kind of shuts that down as well, but it says their scrims are way better than their games. There's been some talk as well that has been true, that their practice has been better. Sometimes they smile and laugh because what else are they supposed to do at this point? You know, as I say, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Say he could say more about what's going on, but people will overanalyze it, so he decides to not be leaksy for this occasion. Talks about the scrims that we saw, and then there was a question, right? Scrappy mentioned this, whether OpTic are overthinking things. I wasn't really sure I agreed with Scrappy's perspective that if they just go and play and don't think, I don't think that will actually work. And Shotzzy kind of also disagrees with Scrap and says they're actually not thinking about the game enough. That's what he thinks. So, you know, who knows? I think the other point is that, yeah, they've been playing scrims, they've been playing FaZe and Thieves, they've got some good scrims. Are they throwing in an extra set, right? Like, you know, what does their practice look like? That's what I want to know, because they should be, and they need to be, putting in more time than any other team. There's no doubt. Are they putting in more time than any other team? Not as far as I can see. There still seems to be a feeling that, like, oh, well, we'll figure it out, you know, trust the process and all this. And I don't know if there's any OpTic fans left that are really confident they're actually going to be able to do that. Sure, the team has had so much success before, they could always find a solution, but it's not going to be a quick fix, is it? Let's be real. They're not just going to magically turn this around and look godlike again. Even if their scrims have started to get better, it's the classic, isn't it? Oh, well, you know, we're looking better in scrims. are we going to be able to translate that into matches? You know, every team that sucks says this, and do they often find a way to translate it into matches, whatever that even means? Not really. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
In my opinion, this team's done. This team's over. They need to make a change. And I don't even know if one person change is going to be enough. They might need to make multiple changes. And I don't even know where to start. I mean, people were asking me, where do you start? Who do you change? What do you do? Dude, I don't know. Like, I really don't know where to start with this team. I feel like maybe if I was in the camp, I'd know a little bit more, kind of like what to do or how to handle this situation. But